Welcome to another episode of Dentalflix Uncut. We have another incredible guest, industry leader with us today. Laura, welcome to Dentalflix Uncut.
Thank you, ladies, so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we always like to start off our podcast introducing our incredible guest and sharing with our audience how you serve and help the industry. So take it away, Laura.
Well, thank you. I am a contributor on your lovely Dentalflix platform. Highlighting leadership and all of the things that I learned as a former consultant. But what I really want to share with you today is out of that came something wonderful that I love, and it's called My Dental SOP. And it's a software solution for practices to really take what they learn from going to events, being a part of delivering wow, being on the Dentalflix and the trainings that they get, and having a place to bring it back home and implement it into their dental OPs where it's they can house it, access it, use it to onboard and really make it a part of their culture and training.
I love that. And, our podcast is called Dentalflix Uncut. So we'd like to go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
And there's a reason why you created this software.
Yes.
Maybe there's a story there. Maybe there was a pain there. Maybe there was something that you had to overcome or somebody else had to overcome and you wanted to help them. So I'd love to know the real reason why you created
Yeah.
software.
Yeah, so the genesis came actually from a particular client. Actually, was a little innovative, and he was struggling with filling his team. He didn't have any standard operating procedures. He wasn't afraid to invest in his team, but he really didn't have any of that in place in a way that he could onboard or train. And so he was spending a lot of money outsourcing that training. And when he brought me on board, we did lots of great things. But at the end of the day, all that was still I left them with great resources, but a lot of it was just still between their ears. And he ended up having some turnover months later. And it kind of made me sick, honestly. It just felt like a huge loss after all this great momentum. So I started creating it just to support my clients, and it's taken on a life of its own. And it has become a great support to not only practices, but the consultants that I work with that utilize it with their clients. And so it's just a beautiful framework that did come out of something that felt very painful and kind of made me sad for those that I was working with, that it always feels like you invest in this training and then it starts over as soon as you have any turnover.
There was one quote that I heard this quote when I was a dental office manager. I think I was like 24 years old, and it completely changed the way that I operated and the way that I thought about this. And it was ideation without execution is nothing but delusion.
I love that.
Delusion. Like we're delusional if we're just learning and not implementing. And I think one of the things that stops providers and dentists and doctors from investing in their teams is that they're worried that they're going to just ideate but not execute. And that's, money down the toilet that we're investing in our teams, but it's not actually translating into the practice. So I think that's such a powerful mission that you're on, to be able to take everything that we're learning and then actually apply it into the practice. And so what do you see when offices can do this? Like when you start to see practices really implement the SOPs, like really follow their guidelines, everything's documented, like what happens to a practice when that occurs?
Well, it takes a lot of fear out, I think, for the practice owner, because I think there's a couple of scenarios. One, they feel out of control, so they're giving a lot of their control to their staff.
Yeah.
And so you could have an amazing office manager who has it all up here and who does a great job, but if she gets sick or something happens, the more negative side of that is you could be basically held hostage by an employee who has that all up there, but it doesn't really serve the culture of the practice. So I feel like the freedom that comes with that really is beautiful, and for everybody on board. I think sometimes we think that if we put everything we know into this place, that it doesn't, it kind of takes away the need to have me, right? Like I'm an office manager, and if I put into here everything I do, but it's the opposite of that. It gives them the freedom to be able to step away from the office, to be able to delegate and to implement these things. So I know what you're talking about. I feel like there can be a place where fear drives not using it, where for me, using it takes away the fear, it gives freedom.
So this is so interesting that we're having this conversation. 2 hours ago, I was doing a training within our coaching program, and it was all about forced accountability and the reason why we need to have this in place. And I will share with you, I share with them the story of my manager, and she was actually out of the office for about a month. She had a medical procedure. And what she shared was what made her feel that she could take that time and heal herself and heal her body is that things were documented, they were written down. And so now, if someone else was there to take things off of her plate, she was okay. There was documented of how do we do this? She's a treatment coordinator. How do we, with a video, how do we have the ability to present a treatment plan? What's the steps? What's the processes, right? And that gave her that peace of mind. And what's really amazing as well, as I share with the teams, I said, imagine that you are sick one day or you are on vacation. Is it possible that you're going to be sick or on vacation? The answer is, of course, yes. And it's so interesting. Our video guy, Chris, who's a part of the Dentalflix team, one phrase that we say all the time to each other, and I'm like, thank you so much. You're amazing. Like, thank you. He's always looking out for me, and I'm looking out for him. And he says, we all we got, and all we got is us. Right. And so when we build a practice where it's like, we all we got, and all we got is us, well, what happens when we need to be on vacation? We need that because we need that time with our kids, right? We need that, or we're sick and we need to heal. Then now to our team members, we can say, you know what? Like, I'm good. I can be away because the other team member can go and see what I do. And all of a sudden now I can have peace of mind that they're going to take care of me and vice versa. So I'd love for you to help people who are not having the visual, because we don't have the visual right now of what the software looks like, right? So if people were to close their eyes and they were to picture and imagine what they get when they get My Dental SOP, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that help them to be able to accomplish?
Well, one of the things that I think is important why so many don't have systems in place, because that documentation phase feels very overwhelming. So one of the things that we do is we do preload it with a framework so that they know the questions to ask. What should I be putting in here? What is the framework for creating this massive, SOP manual? So we make it really simple. We give them a framework, preload it with some things that are very commonly used across practices, right? So some of those easy things, it doesn't matter if you're in this practice, they're already in place. But then you can customize it very simply, push the edit button, make the change, save it, and utilize it. You can search inside it. You can create training paths for individuals or roles. So much of that training, like I'm sure you've been in so many practices, you guys, that when someone is onboarded, 90% of that is time spent with another employee who now is wasting their time training this person, and depending on what mood they're in that day can determine what kind of training that person gets. There's a lot of variables that play into that. And so to me, this is just a really great, safe, secure portal where they can have their standard operating procedures, utilize it in more automated ways, track how they're doing, similarly to like how Dentalflix does it, but more in a personalized way for their practice, right? So there's a dashboard, there's searchable content, and then the way it is customized is just so easy. So yeah, for sure, if that's something that sounds amazing, I'd love to give anyone a demo, and so that I can show you how simple it is to just really finally get some peace of mind around that. Did I answer
Yeah,
your
because
question?
it sounds amazing. Because this Dentalflix Uncut, I'm gonna out myself, show you guys a maybe embarrassing story, but I was that team member that I remember my leader. It was my very first job as a dental assistant. I was working in ortho practice, and our team leader came and she's like, "We're going to be starting to make SOPs and standardizing everything that we're doing." And like, my immediate reaction was, "You're going to steal away my freedom. Like, you're taking away my autonomy. Like, I'm not going to be able to do things that I want to do anymore." But the reality was that the opposite happened, like complete opposite. Once we standardized all of the processes, once we made things so streamlined, I started to learn things that I was like, "Oh, I actually haven't been doing that right." Or I didn't know that I could do it easier and faster. It actually allowed me to spend more time with my patients, communicating and building relationships rather than having to think about the next step, because all the steps were just laid out so clearly and beautifully and everyone understood them and was doing everything the same way. It actually like lightened the load for our entire team.
Right.
So kind of going from like that non-believer of like, oh, standard operating procedures steal my freedom, to being like, oh my gosh, my life is so much better and easier. And so if any dentist is listening to this thinking my team's going to hate this, maybe they'll be skeptical at first. But the truth is, from a past dental assistant, it made my life so much better. And that's the truth of it. Like simplifying these things, making them automated, making them easy. It is such a huge benefit to our practice.
Yeah, I love that you shared that. I appreciate it. I think that you know, when you think of taking a training or going to a conference and coming back with a new great idea, how you share that with your team, how you implement it, if you have that framework already set up, innovating becomes even easier, right? Because you have a place to put it that and share it with everyone on the team, and then everybody's elevated at the same time with the new process or procedure. To me, yeah, to me that just seems like it just is so much freedom, and that's what we're experiencing too. And then we have some fun in it for the consultants who are utilizing it with their clients, in ways that they can, if they have special niches, they can also make that a part of that engagement with that client, so that they can make how that engagement last, right? So I think it benefits both sides.
I think oftentimes as well, when new hires are happening, or as some practices are growing from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 dental assistants, which is what happened in my practice. When I teach practices on KPIs and documentation, they're like, "Oh, well," the first thought is, "Well, are they trying to replace me, right? Or are they trying to,
Yes.
take my knowledge?" And I'm like, "Guys, this is so the opposite of that. You're going to go from 1 to 2. Like, if you're doing a good job, people are going to tell other people. And now guess what happens? They can go to a dashboard that can train them, right? Like, of exactly how things are done in your practice, so that now the software trains them instead of you having to take your time, or you're bringing in a new hire and you're onboarding someone, or as you are interviewing people, now you have in your head the process and you already know these are the 10 things you're going to have to do
Yeah,
as a
and
dental
think
assistant."
about when you're, sorry, Anissa,
Yeah.
but you hit it right there. When you're bringing someone in, how many times have you heard that the candidate pool is so limited because they think they have to hire someone who knows everything? They're hiring for experience. And really, it doesn't matter if they have 0 experience or 10 years of experience, they still need to learn how it works in your practice. So having this in place really makes your candidate pool grow, because you can teach skills. Now you're really looking for beautiful people that fit the culture of your practice, and you have that in-house training piece dialed in, and you utilize those outside incredible resources. Always be learning. This doesn't replace always be learning, but the onboarding and hiring pool just greatly grows.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, Laura, again, for all of the listeners who might be thinking this. Is this a training platform, or is it a place to house their SOPs to be able to organize them? So if you go to a course, you have a place to now put your notes, or maybe attach a PDF, or if you're in Dentalflix, you can put a link to that video that you want your team to watch that's in Dentalflix, so that it's now customized for how you want it in your practice. Can you share a little bit more of the practical application and how this can be customized for the practice?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because exactly, it's an organizational tool for what you may already have, what you may want to utilize. Maybe you found a training on Dentalflix. Actually, for one of our clients, we just did that. They utilized Dentalflix for their training, and so we plugged in your URL so that they in the training path for that individual training, so they could have access to it in the right order. So yeah, it's a great tool for just the organizational piece. We don't do training. We just help you utilize the training and knowledge that you have, this communication hub, a portal for all that knowledge, whether it be tribal knowledge or just your ongoing learnings, and organize it. Yeah, exactly.
So Laura, I don't know if this is yet in Dentalflix, but I would love for you to have do a training on how they could use My Dental SOP in conjunction with Dentalflix, so that people can organize the training paths that they want, right? So I think that would be great. And not just Dentalflix, right? So maybe you're plugging in Dentalflix. Again, maybe you went to a conference and you have notes or a PDF. Maybe you're typing out your process. Maybe you're making a Loom video of how you organize your tray for an ortho procedure or a pedo procedure, right? Like, you have the Loom, but how do you organize and what do you do with those videos, right? So I'd love if you could do some sort of training on that, so that people can really see, go within Dentalflix and see how that application, just for people who don't yet know who you are, maybe they're not listening to this podcast, so that they can learn more about you once they're already in the platform and hearing about what you're doing anyway. I'd love for you to be able to do that, because this is great, right? The organization piece is what makes it easy, because you can record, 50 videos on Loom of how do you do this and that. But if it's not organized, then it's just a bunch of videos, right? And so we want to create a framework and a step-by-step process, a roadmap, if you will, of going from having zero knowledge to having full knowledge. And, I tell people all the time, they say, well, there's no good people out there. I'm like, do you think that McDonald's or Chick-fil-A worries that there's no good people out there? I mean, I don't think so, because probably at McDonald's, there's a picture of a cheeseburger. And it has on there that you're going to have 2 pickles and this certain amount of squeeze of ketchup. And so 1 spoon of onions. And so you can take somebody literally off the street and they can look at the picture and all of a sudden they're making a cheeseburger, right? Because they have a framework for that, right? And so what your software does allows people to have a framework for that.
Yes. And this kind of goes back to what Alison said. Some people think of that and they're afraid that it takes away the character, but really you can build your character into that, right? So it doesn't have to be just, a squeeze of ketchup. It can be your squeeze of ketchup in your office that makes sense for your practice. So I would love to do a training on that, Anissa, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm really excited about the impact that this can have on practices and, across locations as group practices are becoming more common. Having that communication tool, that training tool across locations, to me is just, we do not want to scale chaos. And this provides a way to tame that chaos, bring some organization to it, and streamline those operations across multi-locations.
Awesome.
I'm willing to say that it's like non-negotiable to have this kind of scaling. And just like from me getting to know Anissa so well over this last year, one of the things that I've seen her do, like with everything, is create systems. Like she's like, okay, we did it once. This is a system. Like, let's keep moving. And that's, she's one of the most successful people that I know inside of her organizations and her operations outside of the dental office and inside of it. And that has been something that I've just noticed so strongly, is that we do it once, we build a system, like, and I think that's the new mindset that we have to have, is like, we don't want to get overwhelmed, but we have to do a lot of things. But we can do a lot of things if we have systems in place and everyone knows how to use them. So I think, just for the doctors listening, for the teams listening, this could be the one thing that you implement this year that sets you free, that gets your team on board, that makes you more productive and with ease and with automation. So I love that you built this. I think you're a genius. I'm so excited to see more of this technology. Like, I'm a consultant. I help with clear aligner systems. This could probably fit into a lot of what I do within practices. So thank you. You came forward as a Dentalflix creator, and you built out some amazing courses inside of the platform. Like, I was watching them and I'm like, who is Laura Johnston? Like, she is so awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. It's such a pleasure to be a part of the cool things that you guys are doing. So thank you for allowing me.
Awesome. If you can share again, as we're coming to a close, how can people connect with you? How can they learn more? How can they get the demo? What's the next steps?
Well, just do not forget the 3 words, My Dental SOP. That is on our Facebook, our Instagram, our YouTube, and of course our website, mydentalsop.com. And so, yeah, I would love to see you on the inside.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Dentalflix Uncut podcast. We love bringing the top experts in dentistry to you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Just unlocked valuable insights with Dentalflix Uncut, but there's more. Dentalflix is not just a podcast, it's a thriving community, a hub of knowledge, and the #1 online streaming CE platform in dentistry. With just a few clicks, you can start exploring a wealth of resources, including in-depth training on leadership, case acceptance, scheduling, hiring, weekly marketing calls, insightful gap assessments, and scorecards, all designed to help you master what you discovered today and propel you further on your path to dental excellence. Head to dentalflix.com to get started for free and embark on your journey towards mastery. Thanks for tuning in to Dentalflix Uncut. See you next time.